just kind of take through the process.
Yeah, look, there was pretty clear understanding when we needed him with Nate down. We created a roster spot, and then we know we wanted to have him back, so it was more of just managing the roster.
Sean, when you came here, you had a bunch of number one rankings, passing yards, points, and the other day you got a bunch of 9 and 10-minute drives. I was wondering, have you evolved maybe more to complementary type, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think if you really do your homework on what we did, and you're referencing New Orleans, all of those good teams were in the top 10 in rushing. I think you saw the explosives, but I think also it's understanding your current players, your understanding what it takes to win each game, and there were a number of games that we played like we're playing now at times. So I think you really have to dive into those numbers, and we were further along probably, with a veteran quarterback, but most importantly, it's utilizing the skill sets we have here, and then also understanding how the game's unfolding. Making decisions a week ago. How's the game unfolding, and so each week that can change. You always have an idea maybe how you think it's going to unfold, but you have to be ready to adjust. So, it's different right now offensively, and in a good way.
Coach, you talked about games unfolding and getting that feel in a game. How long does it take to get that feel?
I think it begins in the first 2-3 drives. You see it, and we all see it pretty clearly.
Defensively, you guys are first in red zone, third down, goal to go. Offensively, they're high.
Sure.
Always important, but this week in particular, how critical are those?
Yeah, this is a real good offensive football team. Real good rhythm and timing. They'll go to the line of scrimmage without substituting, and you got to be ready to play your defense. They'll do it a lot on third down. They'll stay with what they have and go right to the line of scrimmage. So we got to be dialed in. You get caught with a late sub with 12 guys on the field, they'll snap the ball. They're real good that way. And so, this will be a good test.
I know Pat Bryant was listed as limited last week. Did he tweak it against the Raiders? Is that what?
No, listen, and it's hard to describe. It's attached to the hamstring. We feel like if this was a playoff game, or in other words, he'd be able to go, and yet in order to get him back to full strength, we feel like we've done the right thing this week.
How do you feel about your depth at wide receiver?
Good.
Sean, there's cool video of you and Max Crosby talking after the game, and I asked Bo about when you have a guy, he's Miles, but it's that elite pass rusher. How do you account for him without overemphasizing it? Play to play.
Well, look, I was just saying to him, it's unusual to have a player like that. Like a lot of times we might have certain calls when such and such is off the field, then we would do this, but we wouldn't do it. And in the meetings last week, I said, well, we'll run this when he's off the field. And they're like, well, he's never off it's really remarkable. So then we set run game alerts, Crosby alerts for Boots. There was a ton of time on where we wanted to put him with each play. And I was just letting him know. I said, man, you were, an extra hour and a half each night just with putting a plan together, and he's something else.
Well, so Parsons, that's I guess what I was getting at, is Parsons and that exactly.
Yes, indeed. And the more challenging thing with Mike is where he's at is not as predictable as maybe some guys. Some guys, they're going to be, Max occasionally would be in base to the other side, but Micah's like, he's outside left, outside. We tried to do a whole study on his alignments, and he's inside in the nickel, in the pass rush situations. So that becomes challenging.
His snap count's high, and his pressure rate's high, but he beats more double teams than any edge. But
I've watched it.
how is he able to do that so well?
He's got a unique bend and power. You know, he's not just like he's strong, and so his flexibility and his strength and how he plays with balance and he's elite. And so in every game you watch, there's pocket issues. And 52 is the same. I mean, there's a group, they rush the passer extremely well. Our early downs have to be good. But, he's up 85, 88%. He's up there quite a bit. So, again, a lot goes into the plan.
Does he split it, or does he make one guy at risk when he beats the doubles?
Well, it depends on the technique of how he's getting doubled. And it depends on the defense they're in. Are they in base or are they in sub?
Sean, sort of off the beaten path, I'm curious. Minnesota's OC was saying this week, it feels like a lot.
Say it again?
Minnesota's OC this week was saying it feels like a lot of stuff in this league has shifted from like coverage read type stuff to more like pure progression, offenses across the NFL. Have you seen that across the last?
I can't listen. We have plays that are progression read. Here. We have plays that are safety over here. We have plays that, so we would have man plays, check zone plays, and so I don't know that one's necessarily up or not. I do know that there's a lot more 3 receiver sets than 12 years ago. And that's good, but how coordinators are putting their passing game offense in, I'm sure varies around the league. But I would say we have patterns that are progression. We have patterns that are, 2 high, 1 high. We have man and zone. So there's some routes where it's here and less. And so it just depends on the concept.
Sean, with the athleticism they have, off ball and linebacker, what sort of challenge does that present for you guys?
Well, I would say this: the thing that stood out is there's not a lot of leaky yardage. They tackle well. They tackle well at safety, and so you feel a team that is playing extremely hard, and they're real sound. They're well coached. It's interesting around the league. Oftentimes, when you think of Green Bay, you see the offense. Meanwhile, and we had a joint practice a year ago, and it's hard to remember all of that. But my point being is, they've quietly become one of the top 5, top 6 defenses in a lot of categories. And when you start watching all the film and the cut-ups, you see why.
How do you just your back end with Huff and Jones? Some people think it might be the best safety duo in the league. Just how do you feel about the way they play?
Listen, I like the way they're playing, and that was a big, I would say in the last 2 years, a big part of what we felt was important, and that's critical. Their communication and their there's a lot that's on their plate.
I think it's obviously a team effort to finish runs inside the 5, but what do you like about the way RJ is kind of finishing down there nearly?
Yeah, and I think, look, I've said this, he's a young player who's now all of a sudden went from part of a role to now a little bit more of a role. And again, when we saw him in college, we thought his running skill set was something. And sure, there's a few different schemes now maybe than he had in college, and yet he's got good vision, contact balance. It's hard to get him to talk. He's quiet, but he's quietly smart.
I think you said yesterday, Drake Greenlaw's still on a snap count. Do you imagine that lifting?
Yeah. I think especially week by week in our packages, which packages are going to be used more. But we've done the right thing with him, and it was difficult back whenever, but we're glad we did now.
Is that still easing, injury, easing him in, or is it more mental?
No, it's just, we're, it's ticking up, and he's doing good.
Sean, I think Parker reported that Sam Ellinger got a call from the coach and turned it down.
Yeah.
What's the reaction to that?
Listen, we spent time with him, and we're glad he's here. We're glad he's staying. We think a lot of him, a lot. He's been a real good surprise for all of us, especially offensively when we see and watch him. And he made that decision, and that's a big deal.
What do you think that says about Davis?
Just all of it. It's Davis, the room, the team. That doesn't happen a lot.
Coach, what stood out about Sam out on the field and being?
I think his football IQ, and I would say, he's a quick decision maker. He processes things well, and he's also a real good foot athlete. And you just go back. I remember him. I think I saw him live at the Superdome when they beat Georgia, and there's an it factor he has that we all like.
Did Powers do enough if you wanted to play?
Say it again.
Did Ben Powers do enough?
No, not now. But he's getting there. All right, thank you.